Alright, fellas, here we are back in Pokemon Masters. This is where we're taking it tomorrow. Why? Okay, whatever. Today we're going to be taking a look here at Maxie and Groudon for the third time. I probably looked at these guys. The fourth time they've ever run, which is wild. Third ever rerun. That's crazy. But Maxie's finally back, and alongside him coming back, he is getting the Tech EX role, just like Archie, which I'll say that it probably does about the same that it did for Archie. I think it is slightly better on Maxie, damage-wise, because Maxie just has a higher offensive stat. That's all there really is to it. Damage-wise, the nuke I don't think is too much different, but I mean, he does have the benefit of having a higher offensive stat, so at least it'll make more of a difference. And if you watch the Archie video, Maxie mostly suffers from the same problems, but he does kind of stand out by the fact that he has a, like fucking 200 higher offensive stat, and actually want to verify that. Okay, no, about 100, yeah, about 100 higher in the offensive stat, right? So I guess that's fair. Whatever. So he does have that going for him. And I'd say that's mostly... Oh, sorry. He also has access to an actual zone, whereas Archie has his, weather terrain zone embedded into his actual kit with rain. Maxie actually has ground zone to make abuse of, which is definitely a plus for sure. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Maxie is extremely worth going for, because for one, his sun setting abilities, being as good as they are, have mostly been diminished, I feel like, in terms of overall viability, well, not viability, but actual worthiness in terms of pulling, right? Because we do have supports now like Signusude Sorolla and Signusude Morty, who can set sun reliably. We obviously have other better sun abusers like other fire and grass types. And in my opinion, Maxie being ground type, making abuse of sun, does not hurt him necessarily, but it does make for some really odd team building, in my opinion. Especially now that he is unlikely, or, well, I'm not going to say unlikely, but, like, I feel that he is better suited to be partnered up with Rika because of her ground zone and whatnot, but that is also now made a problem that he cannot be run with Signusude Sorolla and Signusude Morty at that point. So there's a bit of a give and take there. He has gained, or there are obviously others like sunsetting partners, such as, now Mix Blue, Neo Champion Leaf, whoever else can set sun, I guess like Silver, right? Other characters that can set sun, basically, Adamant, Signusude Eriott too, those characters are a pretty big one. But for the most part, I feel that there are definitely some, I don't know, some aspects to look out for Maxie's kit, in my opinion. So, yeah, whatever. I guess let's go ahead and look at his kit. A little bit too much of a preface there, but whatever. So, in terms of stats, I guess we'll look at 6-star EX without the Tech EX roll. He's got 789 health, 454 attack, 164 defense, 155 special defense, 376 special attack, and 337 speed. The defenses are extremely low, especially because he does lower them on the trainer move. If you've seen Archie's video, you'll know that they share that same fact. The HP's fine, the offensive stats are good, speed's fine, I guess. Tech EX roll obviously does help out, right? 184 defense, 175 special defense, 849 health, and obviously the offenses go up as well, of course. So obviously he does gain some stats from the Tech EX roll, as obviously implied. Though it really does not help his defenses out. He still really does want a defensive character to help out, which is where Signusude Morty was a really good partner for him, because obviously Morty had the ability to, for one, heal, and two, obviously buff defenses, and just be an overall very solid character to help out with team bulk. But now that Maxie may want, and also let it be known, Rika does help out with that too. She does buff defenses with X Special Defense Hull and shielded on X Special Defense Hull if you have it in the grid, and she does have Team Trash, Tank for healing, and stuff like, I think, Synchro Healing. I think she has Synchro Healing as a lucky skill. Right, so you are able to make abuse of those different abilities. But for the most part, do keep that in mind with Maxie, that he does have to deal with those kind of defensive issues, in my opinion. Looking at his moves, he's got Precipice Blades, which is a 4-gauge, 226 base power move. Hits all enemies, 85 accuracy. Pretty similar to Archie's Origin Pulse, just physical and ground type. Not much else to say. This is a very good this is a powerful move. I do want to say this is a powerful move, especially under the buffs of ground zone and whatnot, which Maxie, again, can make abuse of, unlike Archie with, well, Archie makes abuse of his rain, but not to the same extent that Maxie can abuse Ground Zone. Or at least the effects of Maxie's Ground Zone is far more impactful, because if we want to consider looking at Maxie's actual DPS, consider this as probably single target, so obviously, split it 3 ways, right? 1.3 million just as a scale factor, and then we look at like some of the top moves, and Maxie is up there for DPS, right? Like, he is comparable in DPS to other recent characters, like another ground type variety, Giovanni with his Crushing Earthquake, the damage of Signasuit Serena's Core Enforcer, New Champion Red's Blizzard, which of course you're going to be using his Frozen Wings Ice Beam anyway, so the damage there is it is quite different, but again, just keep that in mind. He is relatively comparable to these other characters, and even outside of that, like Bitter Mouse from Eriott, Special Costume Eriott, he does better damage than Variety Lance's Hyper Beam, he does better than regular Lance's Hyper Beam, he does better than, right? So, like, consider Maxie's got really solid DPS potential, kind of hindered by the fact that it is AoE, so you do have to cover your enemies, your sides, right, in order to get that full damage potential. But also consider with how high that damage is, despite the fact that it is AoE, it's still going to be doing some good AoE damage. So that is actually really, really strong for sure, despite the fact that he's got very few multipliers. He's got Dire Hit Plus for maxing crit, Solar Beam for 150 base power, 2 gauge grass move. He does fine grass damage. There's not much else really to state there. He does good grass damage. That's all there is to it. He can make abuse of, again, this is another way to make abuse of Signasuit Acerola. He can get grassy terrain to help out with Solar Beam damage, whether it be on type or whatever, right? Not much else needs to be said. So that's nice. And then the trainer move, which really outdated for today's standards, raises his attack and special attack by 2, lowers his defenses by 1, raises attacking accuracy by 1 in the sun, and applies super effective next in the sun. Yeah, no, this trainer move would be good if it wasn't for the fact that he lowers defenses. Just bring a support, in my opinion. I would never want to rely on this trainer move. The super effective next is not really that worth it, except like Lucy's Ultimate Battle, I would say. Maybe that's where it's good, but for the most part, I would stray clear of this, unless you really have a good way to mitigate Maxie's already pitiful defenses by whatever other reason. I would say just try to avoid this, because even with full investment into his defenses, Maxie's defensive stats are not good. They're not even 200, which is about what the baseline should be for pretty much any striker nowadays. And the fact that he lowers them beyond what they are already at is pretty sad. But I mean, he does have full self-sufficiency, so that is a thing. But also consider most modern supports can buff offenses pretty quickly, or at least pretty reliably. So I doubt Maxie's going to have to use the trainer move, at least not twice. So keep that in mind. And the passive skills, he's got Hoenn Pride, which powers up physical attacks up to a total of 50%, and it decreases physical damage taken by up to 31%. More Hoenn allies you have, obviously, the better the damage reduction. Though I wouldn't really rely on that too much unless you are running Maxie, of course, with Courtney, who was effectively designed to be run with him, and being a free-to-play source of Ground Zone, that is probably going to be most people's setup in case you wanted to have a more budget solution in order to run Maxie viably. Courtney is obviously going to be a good partner. So you're going to be getting partial Hoenn master passive activation there, but for the most part, I think that third support slot is going to be relegated to something else, like Argenta, Signasuit Acerola, Signasuit Morty, Rika, whoever, that can help buff Maxie's damage or buff team survivability better than most other Hoenn supports can, because Hoenn supports in general are not really that great. Yeah, you're not going to run really none of these Hoenn supports are exactly fantastic for Maxie. They don't really do much to help him. The best one's probably Signasuit Brendan, but he's special offensive. Maxie's physical offensive. Even with Solar Beam, I would not run Brendan. I would just run Signasuit Acerola. So, yeah. Or just some other sun support, really. Whatever. He's got Sunburst as well, making the weather sunny on entry, Solar Surge 3, quickly charging Gauge in Sun, and powering up moves when in Sun, and Dread Alert 5 to extend Sun by 50% when on the field. Maxie and Archie's big thing, of course, is that they were able to set and extend their respective weather effect, and also set it with their grid tile here on their sync move, which was amazing for back in the day. Nowadays, it's become a lot more standard, so having these abilities is not nearly as powerful as they used to be. Still good, for sure, but obviously it does not make up for their other issues in their kits. Solar Surge is good, a 30% DPS multiplier, and all that stuff, that's fine, sure, yeah. It's good. It's good. It does help out, and that does kind of reinforce why Precipice Blades is so high up here in the tier list, because obviously, you know, Ground Zone, Sun, nearly a 500 offensive attack stat, right? 30% multiplier here. I mean, it's going to do a lot of good damage. that much does not really need to be emphasized upon. So, and then 1 out of 5, nothing really in the grid besides accuracy plus 10 on Precipice Blades, which is good because its accuracy is otherwise pretty garbage, especially because you really don't really want to be using the trainer move too much. So having that accuracy note is actually pretty good. But anyway, what would I say about Maxie at 1 out of 5? I would not say he's really worth going for. He's just another ground striker, and he sets Sun on top of it. Those abilities are good, right? I mean, ground still kind of does want a stronger attacker. Sun is still good, of course, being able to set and extend it, especially as a striker. You know, that's pretty rare for the most part still. But I would say that, especially with modern ground options, if you picked up Rika, you've already got a pretty solid partner in Lodge Rika. Adamant just run and is overall probably a better damage dealer because he actually has a nuke. Variety Giovanni is already very comparable, if not downright better. Definitely downright better, right? So there's a lot of other ground options, and especially in the free-to-play, not free-to-play, the general pool sense, I guess, you do have Courtney and Bertha now, which do help out a lot for ground damage. So again, Maxie's niche of being ground typing is quite a bit more not necessary, I guess, to bring in as a factor. So, yeah. He does still maintain a very high amount of DPS. So if you do want to go for that one copy just to have Maxie and Groudon, because that is cool, right? Maxie and Groudon, they're a cool pairing. Just probably go for one copy, because at the end of the day, this damage is going to be mostly the same no matter what move level you realistically have. It's going to be pretty impressive nonetheless. Not that I'm going to recommend pulling them, because at the end of the day, they are literally just a damage dealer with setting a weather effect on top of it. Most supports do that, and they do a better job of it, and you have other characters that can abuse better, right? Like, again, Signacidia, Sorolla, and then bring any other grass or fire physical attacker in, and they're going to be performing probably, if not better than Maxie, then they're at least going to be bringing more to the field, I guess, than Maxie. So that's mostly my thought on them, or on that. But again, I do think Maxie can look relatively impressive if given the right setup. I still just don't like how he and Archie don't make abuse of the Tech-EX roll that much, and the fact that they were giving it to them is a little bit annoying, but whatever. The Tech-EX roll does not help Maxie out really much at all at 1 out of 5. He just gets a nuke, extra 1.5 times damage on the nuke, which doesn't matter because he doesn't have any multipliers, and plus 20 in the offenses, which is fine, sure. 2 out of 5, Maxie gets attack plus 10, critical strike 1 on Solar Beam, dire hit plus critical eye 1, 1 with Sun, Healing Sun, you know, just some general abilities. I mean, the critical strike 1 is a 10% DPS multiplier on Solar Beam, that's fine. Critical eye to max crit in a single turn is fine as well, but really nothing worth 2 out of 5ing for. They're just very small quality of life abilities. Then he gets at 3 out of 5 Super Sun 4, Solar Propulsion 1, Endurance Super Duper Effective 1, both sync nodes there, Solar 5 and Solar Sync. Oh, and Mind Games 9 on Solar Beam, Charging Sun 5 as well. So very, very similar grid to Archie, I would say, just obviously made different for his different abilities and typing and whatever else. Super Sun, giving you super effective next at 50% chance when attacking in Sun. That's great for on-type damage, right? Again, if you're fighting that Lucy Ultimate Battle or any long-form ground stage, that's going to be very good for powering up Precipice Blades past what it already can get to. And then Solar Beam as well, you know, for those grass stages. It's good enough, right? But mostly at the end of the day, it's only going to be good in those longer Ultimate Battle type of stages where you're probably already going to want to have other specialized characters for those stages to begin with. So, it's a little bit iffy there to really consider that. But it's mostly to be like, hey, this character can beat this game mode with this ability, but realistically it doesn't really matter that much because there's other characters that can do it a little bit easier, and really you're probably going to have already invested in those, and if you don't, then it's better just to save for those than to pull for this guy who could do it, but with a little bit more effort. Right, that's kind of the way I'm thinking about it. Solar Propulsion 1, 20% chance for Sync Countdown when in Sun. That's good as well. I mean, 20% chance is not the greatest, but it can be very clutch if it procs right. You know, failing a quad Q or something can then be alleviated by managing Solar Propulsion. Solar Flare 5 and Solar Sync. Solar Sync is great setting, Sun back on the first Sync move. Does make his nuke a little bit more worth going for on top of Solar Flare 5 for the extra power buff there. The nuke is still not good, though. That's the thing. Even 462 base power and a total nuke with a nearly 500 offensive attack stat, a 50% total multiplier for the nuke is not that great. Even if you are setting Sun, we now have other Sun setters on the sync move that are just better at that job and provide you more on their sync. Like Mix Blue. For one, I'm pretty sure he's got a better nuke. He does have 100 points less in overall multiplier, 100 points less in overall special attack. But he sets and extends Sun, similar to Maxie. He gives himself +2 special/physical moves next, Solar Flare 5, and Brain Power for 150% in total nuking multipliers instead of just 50% total. So he does have a better nuke, and he does obviously set and extend Sun, and he does give himself a little bit of extra strength with that node there. New Year's Wallace, I'm not going to justify. Those nuke, I'm pretty sure, is just downright better than Maxie's, so there is still that to consider. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I think his nuke is better. I may not be 100% sure there. New Champion Leaf's got a better nuke, and she sets Sun as well by the exact same method as Maxie. Solar Sync, Drought Alert 3, literally just a better nuke in every context. And then obviously Cygnus Morty with the Field EX roll, he's giving you support EX on top of that. There's already a very good reasoning to sync with him there, so... Maxie's nuke is really just not worth going for. If he had support EX, you could definitely justify it a lot more. That support EX is very nice, but still, I just don't think this is justifiable to give him the Tech EX roll and make his nuke seem worthwhile when it really still isn't. Endurance, it's not really worth considering, honestly. I don't know why I picked it up. Super duper effective 1 again, mostly just good for those on-type stages, and it's only a 10% multiplier, so I also would not really consider picking this up, ever. Yeah. And then Solar Beam charging Sun 5 and Mind Games 9. Good utility for special defense debuffing, directly powering up Solar Beam and any ally special attacking move. Not much else really needs to be said there. It's a solid node if you're going to be doing Solar Beam damage. Charging Sun 5, 50% DPS node. Again, just another good bit of damage for Solar Beam, helping out its power on top of the Solar Surge multiplier in the grit, in the passives. So you will be getting some pretty solid Solar Beam damage. Not really too much else to say there. It's good. His Solar Beam damage is going to be good for any on-type stage, and if you're going to be trying to, enforce Solar Beam damage for whatever reason, it will also be good, because I also want to note that Maxie's Solar Beam damage is still quite impressive, 1.1 million here, comparable to Raihan's Steel Beam, Variety Giovanni's Surf, Special Custom Hilda's Diamond Storm, Cygnus Leaf's Frenzy Plant, Classic Blue's Hyper Beam, Leon's Hurricane, some decently high-powered attacks, or decently powerful attacks, I guess. It's going to be a pretty decent damaging move. Not better than Precipice Blaze at its peak, but still pretty decent. So overall, I think what you can assume here is that Maxie's grid is not great. You would be 100% correct in assuming that. I don't really have much else to say. I mean, his grid is not fantastic, and you can't even pick up everything, which really does suck, because this node here is kind of in the way. I don't know how you would even build his grid either, because it's really just not that good at all. Yeah, I don't know. Because really, I think that if you're going to be using him and you're going to try and use him on type, you're going to want Super Sun. I guess if you're not going to nuke with him, you don't need the sinking stuff, but at that point, what else are you going to pick up? You have 34 energy to play with, and you've just got this stuff, right? This is the only really worthwhile stuff to go for. I guess you could go for Super Duper Effective 1 and some gauge management, plus 10 attack to help out with a lack of multipliers, right? Just pick up attack anywhere in the grid where available, get Precipice Blades at plus 10 accuracy. Sure, man. Because again, Maxie's nuke is not really worth going for, but at the end of the day, if you are going to go for it, you do have the benefit of, you do have the benefit of getting Solar Sync on top of it, so I mean, that's really the only thing that's worth going for, but it's just so expensive to get anything in here because of Dire Hit plus Critical Eye 1 just being right in the way. It really does suck, but you can probably find a way to pick up everything that you want to pick up by whatever reason or by whatever method, I guess. This could work, but yeah, you can probably make something like this work if you want to invest the extra grid energy into Maxie and get that plus 6 extra energy. Get this, just miss out on Solar Propulsion. Get a character that can bring in sync countdown or manage to land your quad Qs, whatever you can do in order to help mitigate the loss of this ability. Sure, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I don't have much else to say. As you can see, the numbers don't really lie too much. Maxie does have quite solid DPS. The nuke is still trash, even with the Techie X roll. The utility is still about the same as Archie's. Archie's is actually probably a bit better because water type, at least, you know, there are more partners to directly benefit off of. Maxie being a ground type with Seth Sun is a very rare niche, and it's not as if you're going to kind of try and slot him in on a fire type team to, you know, do anything with that. So yeah, whatever. I don't really recommend going for Maxie, but I mean, you can, and a 1 of 5 copy is probably enough if you really want to just like test his damage and whatnot. He'll be fine. Probably lack of grid multipliers really reinforced that his Precipice Blade's damage is just innate. There's no other real multiplier besides that 10% for super duper effective 1. So yeah, good luck on your subs if you're going to go for him. Tech EX roll is definitely a roll. Yeah, I'm not going to be investing in that EX roll. I do have a 1 out of 5 maxing. It's probably going to stay 1 out of 5 realistically, but yeah, I'll see you all later. Hope you all enjoyed. Good luck. Peace.